Hey, Professor. This is our presentation on snake venom. This is a topic that I think we were all pretty excited about. We all agreed that we would enjoy doing a presentation on it, and I think we were all pretty passionate about it. So, I'm excited to share it with you. So, to begin, what is snake venom? Now, some of the people who aren't as familiar with snakes, like I was before I started doing the work for this, actually might think that snake venom is something like separate, some separate thing that snakes make that's injected into prey specifically. It's actually just a modified version of saliva. It's like our spit. Knowing that, its purpose is pretty simple. It allows the snake to immobilize and kill its prey for ingestion in different ways. Now, venom can either be injected via a bite or spit at a prey, depending on what type of snake it is, the evolutionary history of that snake, just what type of snake in general it is. I'd say 90 to 95% of all snakes inject their venom via a bite. Just an interesting fact, so we're going to focus on those. So venom actually does vary in its toxicity and effects depending on the evolutionary history of the particular snake species. Just in general, each snake venom is unique. There's not one set amount of toxicity. It varies among every snake population depending on what part of the planet you're on, whatever. So the chemical makeup of the venom, as I said, each snake venom is unique. There are a lot of variations of effects it can have depending on its makeup, which we'll get into. All venom is like 90 to 95% protein. It's responsible for almost all venom's effects. There tends to be both toxins and neurotoxins in there. As you'll see, I'll get into it in a minute. Those can have very drastic effects. Also present are some enzymes and polypeptides, some of these also having toxic effects. The picture on the right is actually of the black mamba venom, the molecular structure of that. I haven't taken chemistry in a few years. I'm part of, we're in the class. So I'm not going to be able to identify that. It's just a nice visual for one of the most potent snake venoms. So types of snake venoms, they're not actually that different. All snakes' venoms contain one combination of these three toxins, either cytotoxins, neurotoxins, or hemotoxins. So cytotoxins are target specific parts of the body. They destroy cells of that type. So cardiotoxins, for instance, are cytotoxins that damage heart cells. Myotoxins target dissolved muscle cells, etc. And they cause severe tissue damage. Neurotoxins are poisons that disrupt the nervous system. So these kind of block signals sent from the brain to muscles and can cause paralysis and just a slow agonizing death when the prey can't really do anything. So that's a fun image. And finally, hemotoxins, they're poisons that disrupt the blood coagulation process, so they can cause red blood cells to burst open. They interfere with blood clotting and can cause severe internal bleeding and tissue damage. So all types of snakes, any type of snake that's venomous has some combination of these. Most snakes will have a majority of one, as we'll see in a minute. So this is just kind of a slide that outlines basically what I just said, the effects. Cytotoxin leads to necrosis. Hemotoxins, I can never say this, coagulopathy, and blood hemorrhages. Neurotoxins, obviously paralysis and extreme pain. And as this slide here says, if you get bitten by a poisonous snake, you can very well die if you don't get treatment very rapidly after the bite. So this is just kind of a visual outlier again, just for what types of snakes have what venom or what have main venom. So cobras mainly have cytotoxins, so they're targeting specific parts of the body in an animal and causing death. Coral snakes, neurotoxins, so if they bite you, again, paralysis, slow, painful death. And rattlesnakes, very common in northern New Jersey where I live. Very dangerous in terms of their hemotoxins, which again cause blood coagulation and lack of ability to clot and thus internal bleeding and death. So very fun images.
All right. Is there an antidote? There are many types of antidotes, actually, just depending on which venom you're infected with. The only standardized specific treatment for neutralizing the medically important effects of snake venom toxins is antivenom. Antivenom is composed of antibodies, and they are used to treat certain venomous bites and stings. Antivenoms are recommended only to be used if there's significant toxicity or a high risk of toxicity in the affected patient from the venom from the snake. Antivenom can prevent or reverse most of the snakebite envenoming effects and can also play a crucial role in minimizing mortality and morbidity from the snakebite. Doesn't matter. On this slide, there's also some pictures of different types of antivenom and like the different types of syringes, such as sea snake. I have it written down here: the crolitolid, Polavian, immune fab, or just also called crofab, which is a lot easier. But the popular types of antivenom and where they're used. So the sea snake antivenom is obviously used to treat sea snakes bites. Sea snakes are located in the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific Ocean. The Vipera tab is they're pretty much just venomous vipers. It's the Vipera, a genus. They're found in North Africa to the Arctic Circle, and from Great Britain to Pacific Asia. It's a big, just broad range that is found in. The Etchi tab G is an African snake antivenom found in sub-Saharan Africa. The polyvalent snake antivenom. This is used to treat most snakes that are encountered in Australia and Papua New Guinea. If I butchered that, I apologize. Death adder venom. It's a death adder snake, which is native to Australia. And lastly, the crofab. It's used to actually treat most North American crotalids, such as he said earlier, the rattlesnakes that can be found in North Jersey, the copperhead snakes, cottonmouth, and water moccasins. On this slide, this is just the scientific use of snake venoms. On the right-hand side, there's a picture that just shows like the different types of the neurosystem with the neurotoxins and how they affect, and the circulatory system, the muscular system, just all different types the venoms can treat and help be beneficial to us. There are many scientific uses for snake venom other than using it for antivenoms. The toxins can be applied in treating strokes, heart attacks, pulmonary embolisms. These all can stem from blood clots. Additionally, the proteins in the snake venom have very specific effects: blood coagulation, blood pressure regulation, transmission of nervous or muscular impulses, pharmacological or diagnostic tools. The US FDA was the first one to get approval about in 1981 to use snake venom to reduce high blood pressure. The medicine was developed from the venom of Brazilian pit viper.
When and where did snakes evolve to get venom? Snake venom is thought to have evolved sometime within the Cenozoic era, roughly between 66.3 and 20.3 million years ago. Snakes shifted from mechanical evolution of prey to biological methods of eliminating prey. Although snake venom has properties that are unique to the species, such as evolving to have the ability to block platelets from clumping together, ultimately their venom is very similar to other venoms. And a cool fact is that in pit vipers, their natriuretic venom evolved from proteins that were found in other animals. But in snakes, this venom relaxes their blood walls really fast that it causes a very rapid drop in blood pressure. Why did snakes evolve to get venom? They evolved to get venom so that they can hunt and defend themselves better. Snake venom is made by organs that are evolved from salivary glands. Ordinary salivary contains enzymes to help digest food as you chew it, and natural selection has favored snakes that include ever more toxic enzymes in their saliva. Interestingly enough, the evolutionary history of snakes suggests that they're actually locked in a kind of arms race with prey. The prey evolves resistances to the venom, and the snake's venom evolves to either eject a larger amount or become more potent. This has resulted in snakes like the king cobra having venom so potent that they can kill an elephant. And something important to note is that snake venom evolved from a number of independent lineages around the same time, and there are multiple sources for venomous snakes. And functional adaptations of snake venom. Venom, like any other evolutionary trait, has evolved to have some really unique functions for certain snakes. In some snake species, the venom is specifically more toxic toward prey found in their natural habitats. This is the result of the coevolution discussed previously. And some snakes can even track their prey after they've bit them in a process known as prey localization. A special type of protein called disintegrins are responsible for allowing the snakes to track their prey by changing the odor of the bitten animal.
Also, really quick, the photos I want to touch on. In the first photo, that's the blue-banded sea snake, and that actually has venom with higher toxicity towards some fish species because it's a water snake. It lives in water. And then the second photo is the rattlesnake. They're very common, again, in where we live, northern New Jersey. And its venom actually is one of the contains these disintegrins, which allow it to track bitten prey. And its venom is has a lot of hemotoxins in them, so it would make sense. It would, it's not. The blood coagulation process is something that's going to take a while. The animal's not going to die instantly after a bite, so it's very useful for that snake in particular to have the ability to kind of track it down. Now, how does this is where it gets really practical. How does one identify a potentially poisonous snake, assuming you live in North America, right? Relates to public health in a sense. This is probably the most practical information we'll give, just because I think it's important, especially a lot of people like to go on hikes. Summer's coming up. It's important to know how to recognize a dangerous snake when you see one. One of the main ways is through behaviors. So there are actually only 4 types of venomous snakes in the United States. There are rattlesnakes, copperheads, cottonmouths, or water moccasins, and coral snakes. So if you're looking in the United States, it's actually pretty easy to identify these snakes based on their behaviors. One of the most blatant examples is the rattlesnake shaking its tail to warn away predators, right? If you hear a hiss and clicking sound, leave the area. It's very common in our area. I've known a lot of people who have actually had encounters with rattlesnakes, and they were warned away by that. So obviously, if you hear that, it would be a good idea to give that snake some space. Another instance shown on the bottom there, cottonmouth in water. Cottonmouth snakes live in or around water. So if you see an unidentified snake and you live in an area where cottonmouths are prevalent or could exist, you want to be wary of that. It could be a cottonmouth. This is the most obvious and probably easy way to identify a snake. As we'll see, some of the other methods require you to get closer, but yeah. Another way is coloring. It's a little bit harder for, I would say, an inexperienced eye to identify this, but it's still one of the primary identification methods for snakes, so it's important to talk about. You're not going to be able to see every snake for what it is. It's even to the trained eye, it can be difficult, as we see on the right with the example of the venomous coral snake and the non-venomous king scarlet snake. Both are incredibly similar in their color patterns and live in the same geographical region of the United States, that being the Southwest. However, it's hard to identify. Obviously, even to a trained eye, it would be hard to identify at a moment's notice what type of snake it is, right? So this is probably one of the harder methods, but I still think it's important to talk about because it is one of the main ways you can identify whether or not a snake is poisonous. Another big way is looking at the snake's head. Obviously, you have to be pretty close to do this, so it's not recommended. I personally wouldn't get too close to any snake. That's just me, maybe. Venomous snakes tend to have kind of a triangular shaped, pointed head. It's very distinct. If you can see it, you'll know. Non-venomous snakes tend to have more rounded heads. And prey, interestingly enough, actually tend to recognize this and avoid snakes with triangular heads because they tend to be dangerous. Specifically for the United States, all dangerous snakes here are considered members of the pit viper family, and all pit vipers have holes in the snake's head. It's kind of like a nose almost. I don't want to say nose because it's not, but you'll be able to tell. You can see them. They're very obvious. And on the next slide, there's a photo showing that. Which actually, another way you can identify whether or not a snake is dangerous is looking at their pupils. This is obviously the most dangerous because you have to get really close, but it's still one of the main ways venomous snakes versus non-venomous are identified. Venomous snakes have really thin, kind of black vertical pupils, almost like a cat's eye, as you can see by the picture on the top right. Again, you can kind of see the That is actually a pit viper in the venomous snake example. You can tell by the almost nose-like holes in its head, and its very distinct like point at the end of it. Um, and non-dangerous snakes will have kind of round pupils with a white eyeball. And I like the dichotomy of the two pictures on the right because you can kind of see everything combined in terms of the head and the pupil. Like it's very distinct what snake would be non-venomous versus venomous. And just a final note, I mean, these are good identification methods for sure, but they're not necessarily final. There are exceptions to these rules, but if you're looking for venomous snakes in North America and you want to be aware of whether or not a snake is venomous, these are very good tips to know. So,
How to not get bitten by a snake. Snakes 9 out of 10 times don't want to bite you and are non-confrontational. Basically, they won't attack you unless provoked or scared. But if you see a snake though, it's most likely that it saw you too, so give it some space and don't get it to move by throwing anything at it. Make sure to keep an eye on it as it's moving away from you so that you don't accidentally step on it later. And be attentive and keep an eye on trails while you're walking and make sure to walk without steps and scrub or clusters of leaves. Just in case, be sure to look over fallen trees before going near them or jumping over them just in case a snake is chilling there. Lastly, if you can, wear long pants and high boots before venturing. This could be life-saving.
How to survive a snake bite. You just got bit by a snake. What do? Well, the first step is to remain calm and not to panic. Usually a snake bite does not look like a too small puncture wound in your arm or your hand or anything. It could look like just a scrape or a scratch. The symptom of a snake bite could be feeling unwell all of a sudden, being confused, loss of consciousness while venturing or hiking. The second step is to not wipe off any of the venom off of your skin, because it is crucial for the identification of the snake and what treatment is needed. The next step is to slow and stop the spread of the venom with a pressure bandage and a splint. However, if you don't have these items, then use a pant or a shirt, such as a pant leg or a shirt arm. You could tear it off and apply it. Apply bandages firmly over the bite area and extend it up to your limb as far as the bandage will go. But make sure to apply the bandage like a sprained ankle, but not so tight that it would stop the flow of blood. So yeah, there's different, like a tourniquet, as it says on the top right, or you could do a type of splint, but tourniquet is the best to probably just stop the flow of the venom into your bloodstream. Remember, the less you move, the slower the venom spreads. So that's another thing. The wound, or wherever you're bit, you don't want to move that much, because the more you move, the easier it could just spread through the blood cells in your body. Lastly, dial an emergency number and get to the nearest hospital when possible.
for sure. I just want to one last final note. It's like if you get bitten by one of these snakes in North America and anywhere else, like it is dangerous. Just stay put, call 911. Don't exert yourself or anything if you can, because that, blood pumps faster. It'll spread around your body faster and you can die. Like, this is really serious stuff, and it's probably some of the most practical information we can give you regarding like venomous snakes. And finally, this is just a slide. I'm a big movie person. I really like watching movies. I watch a ton of them. And while I was making the presentation, I kind of noticed, well, in my head, I kind of thought, like, why in movies is it always the king cobra that they pick for, like, the snake, It's always the king cobra. It's just so famous. I think almost everyone can recognize that, just the silhouette of it alone. So I kind of thought, why is this? And as I learned in research, it's actually probably not only one of the most deadly snakes, it's honestly probably one of the most deadly creatures in the entire animal kingdom. So it's very deserving of its spotlight roles. You can see I have it in the Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indiana Jones falls into the pit, and in the 2006 James Bond movie Casino Royale, in the beginning there's a scene where they have a king cobra fighting I believe it was a mongoose. It was very entertaining. But something interesting about the king cobra that I learned when I looked it up was that it's not like it's so dangerous. It's not the potency of the venom. It's not necessarily more potent or less potent than any other poisonous snake on average. It just delivers like so much per bite, and the visual is 1.5 teaspoons of venom per bite, and that's in that is enough neurotoxin to kill 20 people or an elephant. Obviously, just an insane amount of venom. And as a result of that, it is one of the fastest killing snakes. Honestly, could be animals in the world. It only takes 15 minutes for a full-grown human to die to one of these bites, just again because so much venom is injected at once into the bloodstream. And as a result of that, just the pure potency of it and its kind of iconic silhouette, especially in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, as that was, in Egypt, very Egyptian kind of looking silhouette with the Sphinx and all that. With its hood and its potency, I definitely understand now why it's in so many movies. So that was just something interesting that I thought to include. So having said all that, that's the end of our presentation. I think it touched on a lot of topics or connected a lot of topics that we talked about in class in terms of modules. I mean, there's a lot of scientific applications for snake venom that the pharmaceutical industry is undertaking, as Mike was talking about. There's a lot of evolutionary differences within snake venom that are particular, like Darwin saw in the Galapagos, to particular areas of the world. No snake venom, as I said, is the same. They're all unique, which is just really interesting. So yeah, this is as I said, that's the end of our presentation. Kind of is just summing up there. This is our works cited. This is all the sources, and finally, I know you wanted the URLs of all the photos under them. That didn't seem feasible to me, just because we already finished it by the time I realized that. So these are the links to every image you see in the PowerPoint. So yeah, that's our presentation. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I think we're all pretty passionate about it, and we were happy to give it. So, anyone else have any final thoughts?
No, I love snakes. I thought this was very interesting. I'm also fearful of snakes.
Yeah, Sam.
I think if anything, we should add the dodgeball movie to the Cobra.
Oh yeah, what movie was that?
Dodgeball.
It was just called Dodgeball.
It was Ben Stiller. It was Dodgeball. What I don't know, American True Story or something.
I don't think I've seen that one, but we definitely should have.
No, True Underdog Story. That's what it's called.
I actually think I saw that then.
Had Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I think I watched that. So yeah, that was our presentation. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, have a nice night.